Hey good people of YouTube, it is Wednesday the 10th of June 2020. I've just found out that I'm going to be on furlough for another 3 weeks from my work, and I want to try and use my time a bit more creatively, a bit more constructively. So seeing as the weather outside currently looks like this, I'm in the garage, sheltering from the elements and using some of my central addiction tools and gadgets. And I decided it might be interesting for you guys to review some of those products, see what I think of them and what they're like. So the first thing I want to review is this fairly recent purchase, bought I think a couple of months before lockdown, and that is the Lidl Crivit bike workstation. So yeah, let's take a look at that. The first thing I would say about the bike stand, it packs away really well. You know, it's a collapsible design, good for home storage, and it folds up nice to just sit on those hooks that I mounted on the underside of a shelf, so stores nice and easily out the way, and it doesn't take up a lot of space once it's assembled either. So you've got this quick release tab, just undo that, spread the four legs out it goes, and just spread the legs out as wide as you would want them. And then you just lock the quick release off to anchor them in position. If you put them out too wide, I have noticed this yoke here for the legs will come down beyond these notches on the main bar, and then it will be a royal pain to get it to collapse again. But with the legs spread out that wide, you have got really nice stable platform to work on the bike with. It comes largely built in terms of the main bottom body of the stand. All the legs are already pre-bolted in to these yokes, so all you have to do is insert your top clamping bar here into this yoke, and then insert that tube into the main pole. Again, this is quick release adjustable, so you can adjust the height of the rack to whatever you want to use it at. And this bit came separate, so this was bolted on. So there's two hex head bolts there, and they supply the hex head key, and there's a magnet in the middle of this parts and tools tray, so that Allen key just stays with the rack in case it's ever needed. And if you look at the instruction manual, I'll bring that up on screen now, it seems to suggest that you want to clamp on the top tube of the bike rather than clamping as most professionals would tend to do on the seat tube. And that can create a bit of an issue because most top tubes have some form of cable routing either under or over them, and you don't really want your clamp to interfere with that tube. But I'll get a bike and show you what that looks like. So if I mount my bike in the stand, I've got it set up at the moment so it will clamp on to the top tube. But if I lift the bike into the stand, you see this bike's got a triangular profile to the top tube, so it doesn't sit brilliantly in it, and when you put the clamp down, it wants to clamp the cables, which is far from ideal. So that being said, I'm going to go with the traditional way, if you like, or the more professional way of mounting it, and that is I'll remove my pump from the holder, bring the bike down, and I'm going to rotate the clamp so that it will actually clamp on to the seat tube of the bike. Nice and easy to do. These adjusters, you can get a good amount of tension into them without too much difficulty. So just give that a turn to slacken it off, rotate this around, and we'll clamp it into the seat tube that way. The only thing I think this could be done better is that doesn't feel brilliant when you're putting a lot of tension into it. You will still get some slip and the bike will rotate slightly, this tube, but there's a limit. You can see the plastic is already pulling in there quite tight, so there's a limit to how much tension you want to put into that coupling. So if I lift the bike up and in, you can just get it in without interfering too much. Nice and easy, quick adjust on this. If you need to increase the tension or narrow the gap between the jaws, that's nice and easy to do. I'll give it one more rotation just to nip it up nice and tight. And for a nice, to be fair, fairly light gravel bike, that's a good level of tension. It's holding it nicely and everything's at a good, nice and easy working height. A good additional feature that this comes with is this adjustable tie bar. Now, according to the instructions, you're meant to do some crazy thing where you take it from this tube at an angle up to the handlebars. I personally find it much easier just putting it around this top bar here. So you just wrap that around the tube, and then it has this sort of button style fastening where you just pop the rubber strap over the connector and pop it through, and then loosen the extending bar off. You just extend it out, put it onto the handlebar at the other end, and then again same, this sort of button style fastening, and then once your handlebars are nice and true, just turn the wee knob and that locks everything in place, stops you getting hit in the face by a handlebar or the wheel whilst you're working on the bike. The tool tray, it's pretty much a standard tool tray, it's useful enough for what you're looking at, but for the money that I paid for this stand, it's a brilliant piece of kit. It enables you to do all the maintenance you could possibly need to do. You're not on the ground, and if you're trying to tune your gears or whatever, you can get it spinning, get the bike spinning in the air. You're not having to constantly faff about trying to lift one end of the bike while you tune the gears. So yeah, from that point of view, it's been a really, really useful buy that I'm really quite happy with. I've loaded my other bike into the stand. This is my hardtail bike. Now this is quite an old school hardtail. It's a small frame, but loaded up with some pretty burly components. So it's actually got quite a heavy front end on it, comparatively, for a hardtail. But this one has a nice extended seat tube, so you can clamp it in on the seat tube, seat post rather than being on the seat tube. Again, this has cables and brake hoses running on the top tube, so you wouldn't want to clamp it onto that. But again, gives you a good range of heights where you can work on things. One thing I have found with this is it's starting to challenge the clamping force available here on the Workstand's clamping tube. So with my experience from this, I think if you had a heavier enduro bike or a downhill bike, something with quite a burly front end on it, you're going to start to struggle with that tube just wanting to rotate. And like I said, there is a limit to how much clamping force you can put on it. But that's just theory. I've not actually tried it with an enduro bike or a downhill bike. But the gravel bike that I've got, my hardtail, and my wife's bike, everything about it works really well.